place this camera? Let's go bottom right. Hello, I have my camera at the bottom fucking right. Alright, I'm gonna pull up my stream on my phone because this shit likes to fucking mess up. Now, is that a good size? I might make it a little bigger. Hold up. How do I go to the broadcast settings? Alright. You know what? For tonight, we're just gonna leave it like this. Alright, how long do I have? I do have to work at 7. I am not a responsible adult. Let's see here. I'll get off before 12. We'll go with that. Alright. Let's begin the game. Alright.
This is the story of a man named Stannlay. Stannlay worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
Yes.
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stannlay relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stannlay was happy.
I would be too.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stannlay. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stannlay found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Now, what haven't we
his
done?
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
What haven't we done yet? I guess we haven't fully completed the game
lucky
like
to have a bucket, but
normally.
Stannlay is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
Yes, he is.
Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I am the luckiest.
Still no one was here. Stannlay needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stannlay and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Alright, let's fucking go!
Stepping into his manager's office, Stannlay was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this, but Stannlay guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. Stannlay and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Whoa!
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Whoa.
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stannlay and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Huh.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stannlay nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs.
No!
The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as
It's okay,
Stannlay
Bucket.
cradled it gently, reassuring it that
Everything will be okay,
fine.
Bucket. Okay. Let's keep going.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stannlay's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stannlay decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle.
Did we do it?
Stannlay and the bucket waited in blackness.
We did it.
Was it over?
I hope so.
Yes, they had done it. Stannlay and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stannlay wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support. What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stannlay and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stannlay square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave.
No!
Even
I have to take the bucket!
Himself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No. Stannlay can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms, not while this building has anything to say about it. Stannlay realized he would never again leave this very room, but at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stannlay thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stannlay gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
The end is never.
Stannlay had never seen the office this brightly lit. Was it a sign of something? He hoped it was. He hoped very much that it was. When Stannlay came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stannlay knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Yes, we shall do that.
But eager to get back to business, Stannlay took the first open door on his left. Stannlay was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Fuck you. Whee!
Look, Stannlay, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
You're always the
enemy.
enemy.
Investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stannlay. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Her?
This is it, Stannlay. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Mommy?
That's her, Stannlay. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your faith in another, then pick up the phone.
Okay, I'll do it. Hello? Hello? Someone
Stannlay,
fucking...
is that you?
No one picked up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Honey!
Gotcha.
I love fucking
come
mannequins.
on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife?
I don't
They
need a
wanna
loving
commit their
wife.
life to you. I'm trying to make a point here,
I have a
Stannlay.
loving mannequin.
I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Okay.
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stannlay.
Huh?
Stannlay is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
I don't want to. I don't want to press it. I'm going to press every button but that. Bitch. Fine.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch.
Yeah.
Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
I wouldn't choose anything else. I want to touch my mannequin bitch. I love you, honey. Let's have some bedroom time now. No bedroom time, honey? Damn it.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stannlay dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth.
This looks
The
familiar.
thought excited him terribly. So, he
Spend
went
time with the
further.
boys.
He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
All right, honey, you ready for dinner? I don't know how to cook. Here's some ramen.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, He
I think
began
I
to fill
spilled
it
it.
with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stannlay Perable.
All right, son. Let me tell you a story about the Vietnam War.
It was such a wonderful
Asians!
fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
I love you, bitch.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be?
She's gone.
In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
It's turning into my office.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stannlay, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Fuck you, bitch! Fuck you! Fuck you, bitch! Yeah. So gonna fucking happen. It's meant to be.
You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stannlay. We're not so different, I suppose.
Woo.
I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stannlay pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stannlay pushed a button.
I'm dead. It's literally the dream. What haven't I fucking done?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I think I've done all the,
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stannlay checked his ego and then proceeded onward.
I feel like I've done everything I can with this damn bucket. Why does the layout of this place like to change so much?
Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I mean, I have one idea.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stannlay had felt the bucket calling to him, telling
It's time to
him
destroy
that
the
employee
fucking
lounge
bucket
was
once
simply
and
the
for
place
all.
to be. And
This
here it
bucket can
was.
suck my
Had the bucket
fucking
turned
dick.
out
It's
to be
gonna
correct?
die.
Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stannlay took the door on his left to go, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good Stannlay, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stannlay. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stannlay Perable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stannlay. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Hold up. No dialogue? Missed opportunity, fucker.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well. Now this is what the Stannlay Perable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stannlay is addicted to drugs and hookers.
It's as close now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stannlay. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up. Don't you get it, Stannlay? We need to get rid of the bucket.
Okay.
That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer.
Woo!
I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stannlay Perable.
Let's try it out.
True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
I do.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does?
Does it
Surely
destroy
you don't need me to
buckets?
spell it out for you.
Does it destroy buckets?
Go ahead now, Stannlay. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
Goodbye, motherfucker.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its
not
singular
letting me.
personality trait. Sure, I can hear you
It's
saying,
not
how
fucking
does a
letting
character
me.
with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stannlay Perable characters. Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stannlay Perable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting.
I'm
Do
trying
it,
to
the
do
fans,
it!
Stannlay. Give the fans what
It's
they
not
want.
working! Bam. Fuck.
The Bucket Destroyer, my prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
So magnificent. You really touched my heart, Bucket. I love you, Bucket Destroyer. Alright, there's another
All of
thing
his
I want to try.
co-workers were- Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office? Stannlay cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace, protective yet delicate, assertive yet compassionate. Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stannlay had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the
I want to enter the
employee
game
lounge
show.
was simply the
So I had
place
the
to
ending
be.
that everything
And
was
here
a
it
bucket.
was. Had the
Now
bucket
I
turned
want
out
the
to be correct? Was no,
I want the ending where
never
nothing
mind.
is a bucket.
The bucket was wrong. Stannlay took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stannlay did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stannlay chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
I want to do a different thing at the game show because
No,
I did.
stop. Look there
where
on
buckets
the wall. You
weren't
see, there's a
bucket,
sign
everything
right
else
there.
was
It says,
bucket.
no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? What if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Alright, let's see.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket.
Okay.
Simple enough, right? This should
Yeah.
tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket.
Fuck
Okay,
yes.
Let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket?
No, that's a hologram of a bucket.
Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket?
No, that's a 3D printed replica of a bucket. Very close though.
Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket?
Yes, it is most definitely a bucket.
Correct. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket?
No, that's a tractor.
Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay. That's fine. Is this a bucket?
No, that's another tractor.
Incorrect. This is a bucket.
Huh? Are you okay in the head, narrator? Do you need me to give you some better drugs?
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Yeah, it looks like a bucket to me.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Haha!
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
Well, this definitely isn't a bucket.
Yes. Thank you. There's nothing here. Of course it isn't a bucket. We both know full well that nothing isn't a bucket. Wait, when I say nothing isn't a bucket, that makes it sound like I'm saying everything is a bucket, which of course is not true. Unless... Is that what you think? Answer me straight, Stannlay. Are you trying to tell me that you believe everything is a bucket?
No.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago, I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift.
You know,
Do any of us
I
know
thought
what
it
a
was
bucket
me
is?
that was fucking up your
Am
head.
I
Turns
a
out it was
bucket?
just you the whole time.
Stanley, I can't keep doing this.
No, you're
I'm
not a
losing
bucket.
myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game.
I tried.
entirely.
I
Okay,
fucking
here we
tried.
go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... except me. I'm not a bucket after all.
I told
And
you you're not a
Stanley,
bucket.
You're still here. You're not a bucket either.
No fucking
This is
shit.
wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a
What
game.
the fuck?
So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
But seriously, what haven't I done? I feel like I've done everything now.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
I wish things were
Stanley
labeled.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Ah, Stanley's bucket. The only co-worker he would ever truly need. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I mean, what do I do? I don't think there is anything. There's nothing I haven't done now.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Okay.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure. Stanley reflected on all they'd been through together. First, walking through the door on the right. Then walking to the lounge. Then arriving at the lounge. What a thrilling journey the bucket had inspired.
Bruh.
Perhaps this was where the bucket felt most truly at home. Here in the employee lounge. Perhaps it's the only place a bucket can even feel at home. But finally, the bucket was done being in the lounge, and they took the first open door on their left to get back to business.
I mean, what is there for me to do? Plummet to my death?
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
I wish there was a way like to maneuver around here. Is there a way to even get back up from here? Oh, yes. I found a new path. I might have to try and come back here without the bucket.
Okay, this is day number 295, tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it.
Yeah!
Yes. It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get me. What's that? Who's there? Camporata.
The fuck? What the fuck am I witnessing? Okay, no, that seals the fucking deal. I have to go back. What the fuck? Alright, no bucket this time.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stannlay came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stannlay knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Come on.
It was okay. But eager to get back to business, Stannlay took the first open door on his left. Stannlay was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Alright, no bucket this time. Let's see. What's in here?
Stannlay had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording?
That would really
It was
suck.
all just in Stannlay's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights.
Yep.
How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do.
Of course.
Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
I'm glad you're sad. Is that it? Okay. That was a lot less interesting than the bucket.
Wait, Stannlay thought to himself. Am I sure that the orders stopped coming in? How is that possible? They never stopped. Surely I was mistaken.
What else can I do? Done the adventure line. And I really wish it would, like, list all the shit I've done. It'd be so much fucking easier.
Is Stannlay, without the bucket, really Stannlay at all? No. No, surely not. Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I'm trying to think.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stannlay had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stannlay took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Still no one was here. Stannlay needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stannlay and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Bruh.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stannlay was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stannlay may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light let Stannlay guess the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Okay. Come on, Stannlay.
Stannlay and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
I feel like I've done everything, like, because I've been through the red door, been through the blue door, and there seems to be no choices when it comes to, like, the bucket endings, because, like, on a lot of the endings, you get kind of like a choice, but none of the bucket ones, they're all just linear. So I think I've done all of them. Like, what else is there? I thought there was like a way to glitch off the edge of this, because I've seen someone do it before. But I don't know.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stannlay and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stannlay nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this and it very nearly burst into tears as Stannlay cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
There, little Bucky Poo. There, little Bucky. You'll be fine.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stannlay's feeble mind.
There we go.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stannlay decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stannlay and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Guess we'll just go look at some silly birds again.
When at last they came, but at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stannlay gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stannlay was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
Ah! Silly birds!
Stannlay flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions.
Yeah.
Had the bucket known this all along?
Maybe.
Stannlay marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stannlay and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stannlay was happy.
Well, I guess we're ending it here because, I mean, pretty sure I got them all. I can't, like, unless there's just magically some more that I haven't found. I think I got them all. I guess except for the ones that involve, like, sitting in a broom closet for hours. I guess I'm not doing that one, but... like, other than that, I think I got them all. Well, I guess that's it. So, see ya.